Greetings, Ray here, and today I'm going to be holding the shift key for way too long, since I'm going over what I think the conditions for getting into Godhome probably are. And at first glance, it's pretty arbitrary. We're called small when entering the place, so size probably has to do something with it. And we are probably the smallest thing here. However, we get to weird ones like the family of moss chargers. Like, let's go over some reasonable expectations. Size, well, most of that size is just leaves, actually. So, unless you count clothes as part of the creature's size, then that ain't much. Smaller than night, even. Well, individually. So if you count the whole family, perhaps. But why would you count the whole family as one individual? Because they act as a group? There's no hive mind or anything. Not like species is important, because, again, both mass moss charger and maggot of all things is here. Maggot doesn't really have a reputation for being a powerful species. So what we're left with is some of the more imperial measurements. Like health. I know that sounds random, but it's probably the biggest unifying factor among them, is that they can take a lot of damage. So maybe it's a you can take this much damage threshold. Well, alright. Then what kind of health bars are we looking at? And this is part of my editing just kind of fails. So let's talk about Hornet here. Hornet 1, which apparently even this qualifies, has a total of 225 health, which we can then compare to other creatures and see if there's anything that has more health than Hornet here, 225, compared to, well, let's say the Husk Sentry. Sorry, the Great Husk Sentry. If we look at the health of that, we get 170, significantly less. Alright. Then it's merely a matter of durability, yes? There's no more to it. Well, there is one thing more durable than every boss in the game. Two things more durable than every boss in the game. One of which is the Garpede, who easily tanks 100 nail hits. However, that isn't an indicator of their health, merely their protection. You see, protection in Silksong is a completely separate stat which determines how much of the damage the creature actually takes. And in this case, 0 of that damage due to their thick armor. We don't actually know their amount of health. Alright, great. That means that if we have an armored foe, then we need to know the health of them without armor in order to determine their capabilities. Because it's about health, not about how well you can take hits. Which makes it correlate much better with size, because with more size it takes a lot more nail hits to chip away at your form, which would explain the correlation, which is heavily emphasized. We can confirm this by checking the health of Umu. With a health of 300, despite being in an encasing, which would explain why they're counted on this list. Because, again, it's not about the casing, it's literally just how much damage they can take. Alright, what about situations where their armor isn't literally impenetrable, like False Knight? Does armor count into the health factor, or if we use the Fall Knight example again, then what we have to deal with is the maggot inside, which is kind of separate, because literally I'm getting so too exhausted to stay in his armor, and ow, gosh, I stuck against this fight. Normally they have little spider friends. Or also because it's kind of hard to align everything, because these Umus do not like attacking their friend. It's a lot harder to do tricks like that than you'd expect. And the False Knight, now failed champion, is way later in this list than I expected. However, I wonder if the maggot itself has enough health, because, well, most maggots don't have enough health to survive a single pure nail blow. The maggot in this suit of armor has enough to survive 3. In fact, I wonder how overkill we can go. Like, you could hit him once and then hit him with your strongest spells, and probably go a bit beyond his actual health bar, but what is his maggot health? Well, let's see if we get a clear answer. Well, the verdict is in. The Great Husk Country has 170 health, and the maggot inside of False Knight has 160. So, in order for that math to work, defense has to count the armor, but not invulnerability. A weird mix, indeed. However, now that we've got that covered, I suppose it's time to finish up. I'm not great at this fight. I suppose you can join me in this failure. Because unless I do uncharacteristically well, then I'm dead here. The only fight that takes me multiple attempts. Oh. Thank you for listening.